Our story is a story, in my view, of many lucky breaks, just like the story of anyone. And question is what one does with them. I grew up in a very small village in Rajasthan, India, which had been around there for 300 years. And when I was growing up, there was no running water, electricity, newspaper, radios, television. My father was the first one to go to school from the village, and he came back and started an elementary school. So I was a very lucky one that to have born in the village. Have I born in a village nearby, I'll still be taking care of water buffaloes and perhaps a few camels. But anyway, that allowed me to go to Indian Institute of Technology. Next lucky break was that I got admitted to Southern Methodist University in a program under Professor Som Gupta, doing what at that time known mobile radio engineering or cell phones. So we were on the forefront of the technology.
Before I completed undergraduate in India, my parents insisted that I finish my education and then transfer to the US. I studied for 4 more years, came here to University of Maine on a scholarship, transferred to Kansas State, and 6 months later we got married.
So honestly, the next lucky break is to marry somebody who's smarter than you. When we were in Manhattan, Kansas, where we started our first company, LCC International, with $400 in cash and $600 in kind. We thought, gee, we're going to do this for a few years, kind of tinker around, it's fun. Meanwhile, the next lucky break came because Wayne Shelley, who is also recognized by the foundation, Wayne was the head of Washington-Baltimore Cellular One, and he wanted us to do a project. Well, people would say it's going to take months and it's going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We got so tired of just, putting the numbers on the calculator and doing it manually. And I said, you know what, I'm not doing this again. And I said, it's so simple, I'm going to write a software.
Neera wrote the software over a weekend. And next thing is, we have the results for him, and he says, well, you have to come to Washington, D.C. And I said, well, what about my wife? And he said, bring everybody you have in the whole town. I just want you to come to Washington. Of course, at that time, there were no readily available software for designing cellular networks. So we were the very first one outside Motorola and Bell Labs and few other close companies. We wrote the very first commercial software to design networks. One of the first major contract came from Mackay Cellular, where John Stanton and Craig Mackay and all these gentlemen were kind enough to give us a big contract, which gave us a chance to hire a lot of people at LCC, new people. And LCC, from just 2 of us, grew into hundreds of employees. Now we should be kind of doing, other than consulting, we should also be getting into cellular networks. So in 1990, we started going into Mexico. We got one of the very first cellular licenses in Mexico. We got the very first cellular license in Bombay, India. From there, we went and started doing what Nextel was doing here. We went into Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, and started applying for all these licenses.
That when we were working, we were having a lot of fun, and that's important.
But we are still very active in hiking, water skiing, snow skiing.
I learned to water ski, and I enjoy it, and also, it's a challenge. It basically overcame my fear of the water. In the summer, we would, the whole family would just go out and spend the whole afternoon.
Our latest thing is we're taking up golf, and she's already passed me. Just like my father started elementary school in the village and everybody got educated, and Neeraj's dad taught so many people mathematics. We had the LCC Institute where we would train radio engineers, and over 30 years history of the LCC, they have literally trained thousands of radio engineers, and those thousands of radio engineers have gone all over the place. And so in a way, we would say that we are doing what our parents did, right? We have either started or helped start about 28 companies together, my wife and I, and meanwhile have had a lot of fun, and I hope that I still have 30 more years left.